Hello, good day. Welcome to my Healthy and Whole Summit, where you will learn how to live your best life now. I am Melissa Adams and I will be hosting this show. So this show is here so that we can get a holistic view on what healthy looks like, so that you, the listeners, are equipped to make proper decisions on how to live your best life. Today, I welcome Dr. Campbell-McBride, who is a medical doctor, and also she has a postgraduate in neurology, where she has practiced as a neurosurgeon. Dr. McBride developed her theories on the relationship between neurological disorders and nutrition, and completed her second postgraduate degree in human nutrition. Today, she runs a nutrition clinic in Cambridge. She has specialized in using nutritional approach as a treatment and has become recognized as one of the world's leading experts in treating children and adults with learning disabilities and other mental disorders, as well as children and adults with digestive immune disorders. Dr. McBride has 3 published books, namely Gut and Psychology Syndrome, which is the natural treatment of autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, depression, and schizophrenia. And this is where the GAPS diet was also developed. Her second book, Put Your Heart in Your Mouth: What really is heart disease and what we can do to prevent or even reverse it. And the last book, Vegetarianism Explained. So what actually entails after discovering patients falling ill on a plant-based lifestyle. She is also a member of the Society of Authors, the British Society of Environmental Medicine, and a board member of the Western A. Price Foundation. She's a regular contributing health editor to a number of journals, magazines, newsletters, and radio programs around the world. Dr. Natasha McBride, I would like to welcome you to our show.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. So as a kickoff, I'd like to start regarding the GAPS diet that you have formulated. How did you get to that?
Well, we had illness in the family, and very quickly I've discovered that my own profession has nothing to offer my members of the family. So I had to look elsewhere. I had to look in the alternative field. And indeed, what I find that majority of mainstream doctors who came to the alternative field and found the alternative medicine had similar situation. They had something happen to their loved ones or to themselves when the mainstream medicine could not help. So you turn to the natural methods, you turn to diet, you turn to lifestyle changes and other natural alternatives. And that's where I found the answers. I had to face autism in the family. We had one of my children had autism. And working with my own child and then working in my clinic with thousands of other children, I have developed the whole concept of GAPS, which stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome and Gut and Physiology Syndrome later on. What happens to this group of patients is they develop abnormal gut flora. Very often these children acquire abnormal gut flora from their parents because that's how Mother Nature designed it. Both the mother and the father pass their gut flora to their child during pregnancy and at the moment of birth, and in the first few days after birth. We have generations of people with abnormal gut flora in the Western world due to the environment that we've created, due to all the chemicals and medications, particularly antibiotics and agricultural chemicals, many of which are antibiotics in their nature. We are damaging the composition of our gut flora. Gut flora is a mixture of microbes that live inside our digestive system. And recent research discovered the fact that 90% of all cells in the human body live in our gut flora. 90%. So human body is only a shell, a habitat for this mass of microbes that live inside us. And in a healthy person with healthy gut flora, it is a balanced, harmonious community of all kinds of creatures: fungi, viruses, protozoa, bacteria, archaea, worms, flukes, all kinds of creatures living together, controlling each other and not allowing any one of them to get out of control and start causing trouble. Problem is, we human beings are very good at creating imbalances on our planet, everywhere in nature. And that includes our own bodies, that includes our own gut. So when we take antibiotics and when we eat industrially produced food, whether it's plants or animal foods, and most of these foods are sold in supermarkets, we're eating antibiotics. Antibiotics kill bacteria. They don't touch other microbes. They just kill bacteria. And as a result, as bacteria diminish, other microbes take over, overgrow, because these bacteria used to control them, and they turn the whole mixture of microbes into pathogenic group of microbes. So species of microbes which used to be good for us and used to do some good work for our bodies suddenly become pathogenic. They start causing diseases, they start causing trouble. They digest food that comes along in their own way, converting it into thousands and thousands of downright poisonous chemicals. At the same time, they damage the integrity of the gut wall, making it porous and leaky. So all these chemicals are absorbed. On top of that, food doesn't get a chance to be digested properly before it absorbs through this damaged gut wall. So a lot of undigested food is added to that flow of toxicity from the gut. So, and the live microbes flow as well. They get through these holes in the gut lining and finish up in your blood, in your lymph, and get distributed all over the body. So in short, what happens in a GAPS person? Their digestive system, instead of being a source of nourishment for them, becomes a major source of toxicity in the body. A river of toxins flow from the gut into the blood, into the lymph, and wherever this river of toxicity gets to, it causes disease. So if it gets into the brain of a developing child, of a small child, and it would clog the brain with toxicity and will not allow it to develop normally, the way it should develop. Almost 100% of children who are diagnosed with autism in the modern world nowadays, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many other doctors, were children who were born with perfectly normal brains. These were perfectly normal babies, but they acquired abnormal gut flora from their parents from the start of their lives, and their digestive system literally poisoned these children. When the brain accumulates that toxicity, it cannot develop appropriately, and depending on what kind of toxins are there, how many of them there are there, and how the immune system reacts to all of that toxicity, because in autistic children in particular, the immune system launches inflammation. The brains in these children are inflamed. They've got inflammation in their brains. On top of that, the immune system launches autoimmunity in many of these children on their brains, attacking the brain with autoimmune complexes. So, and as a result, the child cannot develop appropriately. So depending on the mixture of toxicity and what the immune system doing in the child, on the level of toxicity, some children become autistic, other children become hyperactive, other children develop attention deficit disorder, dyslexia, dyspraxia, oppositional defiant disorder. The list is very long. All kinds of mutism, aphasia, all kinds of different abnormalities. Whatever group of symptoms the brain would produce, then the psychiatrist would put in a box and call that box autism or ADHD or something else. What that box doesn't include is what causes the disorder and what do we do to get rid of it. So I tell parents, don't go after labels. The label is not going to help your child. You know something's wrong. Start the GAPS nutritional protocol, because that's what this protocol has been designed for. We drive out pathogens from the digestive tract, we re-establish normal balanced gut flora, and we heal and seal the gut wall. We close all those holes in the gut wall of the child. And as a result, that river of toxicity stops. Once it stops, the body cleanses itself. Because human body has a detoxification system, it has a wonderful ability to clean itself. The brain cleanses itself all the time. Once it cleanses itself, once it got rid of all that toxic fog, the child wakes up and starts learning. The younger the child is when this happens, the quicker children recover and the more fully they recover. Because children go through a very divine program of development from the moment of birth. They have to learn to talk around the age of 2. They have to learn to walk around the age of 1. They have to learn fineries of the language in the 3rd or 4th years of life. So, and if the child missed that window of opportunity to develop that particular skill because the brain was full of toxins and unable to develop that skill, then the child may not develop that skill on its own. We have to teach them intensively. But if we catch 18-month-old, 19-month-old, 2-year-old and put them on the GAPS nutritional protocol, very often we don't need to do anything. The child just comes out of that toxic fog and takes off on their own. They learn on their own. We don't need to teach them in any special way. They just recover, these children. I have seen thousands of autistic children who recovered fully from autism, who were young, when we caught them young. The older the child is, the more difficult it is to pull them out because they've missed out a lot of these windows of opportunity. They've missed a lot on their development. There's a lot for them to catch up. And depending on how much effort the parents can put into the child to teach them those skills correctly, children may never learn them on their own. And also the bombardment of this toxic river on the brain, month after month, year after year, starts inflicting physical damage to the brain. So despite the fact that this baby was born with a perfectly normal, healthy brain, years of bombardment by toxicity and autoimmune attack and inflammation, what the immune system does there, will cause physical damage to the brain, which is difficult to reverse, can be difficult to reverse. So the disorder that can become more entrenched in this child. Children with who are not autistic, who are ADHD and other less severe disorders, they usually come out of that situation very easily. So that is what GAPS diet was designed for. GAPS nutritional protocol was designed for. And it's been very successful. The GAPS book has been translated into 20 languages now, and there are several more translations coming in. And I don't do these translations. People in those languages, in those countries who speak English language, they've read the English book, they've used it, they got results, and then they contact me and ask me, can we translate it into our own language, because we want to bring this information into our own country. And that's how all these translations were done.
So, Doctor, is the GAPS diet only for the children with autism, or does it also cover people with autoimmune disease, or is that completely separate?
I started working with autistic children, which was logical for me because I started working with my own child, who, by the way, now is 26 years old and recovered fully and leading a perfectly normal life.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
It is curable, autism. So that's how long ago I've started. And then as parents started bringing their children to me, I started adding to that list ADHD and dyslexia and dyspraxia. And the parents, I found that the parents are not healthy. And apart from mental problems, these children have a lot of physical problems. Most of them have digestive problems, asthma, eczema. Eczema is very common, headaches, clingy children, children who are fussy eaters. They're addicted to certain foods and would not eat other foods, difficult to feed children. And then diabetes type 1 children started coming to me, and children with rheumatoid arthritis, and parents with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and ME and multiple sclerosis and rheumatoid arthritis and other autoimmune illnesses, chronic cystitis and psoriasis and eczema and migraines and neurological illness, neuropathies. It just snowballed. I'm working on my second GAPS book, which will be called Gut and Physiology Syndrome, where I will cover all these physical conditions, the rest of the body, because the first book focused on the brain and the function of the brain. The second gaps book will be focusing on the rest of the body, on all the other systems. Hippocrates, all those thousands of years ago, Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, made a statement that all diseases begin in the gut. And today, we absolutely confirm that statement. We absolutely agree with him today from everything we know from clinical experience and what we've learned about human microbiome, about the gut flora, and what we're learning at a rapid pace.
Yeah, that's great progress for us, but I think it may be a little too late for most of us who don't know about your GAPS protocol. And
it's never late at any age. I had patients at all kinds of ages, at any age. I don't believe in hopeless situations. I believe that every human being has hope, as long as you don't close that door for yourself just because somebody said so.
Yeah.
If one person can't help you, if your doctor doesn't know how to help you, doesn't mean that that knowledge doesn't exist somewhere else. Keep looking, keep learning, keep talking to other people and looking, asking other people. So I don't believe in hopeless situations. Even with conditions which were diagnosed as genetic, I have many people who bring their children to me with diagnosed genetic conditions or have been diagnosed themselves. Many conditions are diagnosed genetic because we don't know what's causing them. So it was assumed that it must be genetic.
Yeah.
And because, you know, our research has found a gene here or a gene there, whatever, it's a very young science and we can't trust it 100% yet at all. But when we put the person on the GAPS nutritional protocol, the symptoms disappear, the process gets arrested, and the person is functioning. Maybe the gene is still there, but now we have a new science of epigenetics, which tells us that our genes are not our destiny at all. It is the environment inside our bodies and outside our bodies that we create that chooses which gene is going to be expressed and which gene is going to sleep forever and never express itself. We're all born with a full choice of genes. Every one of us has got genes for developing multiple sclerosis or you know, myocardial infarction or stroke or obesity or cancer or anything. But by choosing the environment inside our bodies, and the diet is a fundamental, the most important fundamental step in choosing your genetics. What you eat, every morsel of food you put in your mouth, you are manipulating your genetics with every morsel of food. So if you changed your diet, you are choosing your genetics. You're choosing which genes you want to express and which genes you want to stay dormant forever. You don't want a gene of multiple sclerosis to wake up, do you? Or a gene of cancer to wake up, or anything else. You want a gene of good, robust health and a good constitution to be awake and active in your body. And you can do that with choosing your food and choosing the right lifestyle.
Sure.
And that's what we do with the GAPS nutritional protocol.
So in terms of your protocol that you have, what is the general diet approach? Is it a vegetarianism? Is it meats? Do you have a lot of protein in it? What does it consist of?
Well, the vegetarian book I've written in 2017 because I was getting anorexic girls in my clinic who became anorexic because of misguided vegetarianism. And that spurred a very intense study in that subject. And very quickly I've discovered that there is no scientific, solid science for us to rely upon on this subject at all. All the studies that were published on this subject, on vegetarianism and veganism, were done by pro-vegetarian lobby. And they've been manipulated, they incorrectly conducted, you simply cannot trust them. Particularly the China study, which the mainstream propaganda keeps quoting to people that based on the China study, we should all be vegans and vegetarians. It is lie upon lie upon lie, that study. It cannot be trusted at all. So having discovered that, then I went back to the basic sciences of physiology, of anatomy, of zoology, of biochemistry and physics and clinical experience. And based on that, I have written a book, Vegetarianism Explained. And what I explain in that book that obviously we don't have much time to go into it in great detail, but I will summarize. The only foods that human digestive system can truly digest, absorb, and these are the foods that build the physical structure of our human bodies. Our heavy skeleton, our big brain, our big liver, our big lungs, our large heart, our muscles, our digestive system. This is all physical structure, physical material that we build from. And this physical structure constantly renews itself. Cells die all the time. Most cells in the human body live a short life. They get old, they get worn out, and they get killed and removed. And then the body gives birth to a baby cell to replace that dead cell. In order to give birth to trillions of baby cells every day, human body needs building materials to make these cells from. When you subtract water out of the human body, and about 70% of us is water, the dry weight of the human body is 50-50, protein and fat. Half protein, half fat. When we analyze that protein in the laboratory, we find that in its biochemical composition, it is very similar to protein in meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. Plants have lots of proteins, but they're completely inappropriate for us to build our protein from. Certain amino acids are missing, other amino acids are in excess, and these plant proteins are largely indigestible. The way the human digestive system has been designed, they're indigestible for us. The most researched protein from plants is gluten. And the more we're researching gluten, the more we're realizing nobody can digest. Even people who are on the face of it don't seem to act. When you start testing these people and looking what really is happening in their bodies, they are reacting. Gluten is damaging them because it's indigestible. Human digestive system simply cannot break it down properly, even in people with cast iron digestive system. And that's just one protein. There are many other proteins in plants which we are just starting to research. And the more we're researching them, the more we're realizing that they're all indigestible. They all damage the human body. Many of them are now called anti-nutrients, particularly the group called lectins. That's a group of proteins in plants which damage your digestive system, damage your joints, damage your connective tissue in the body, and begin a lot of autoimmune illnesses. So plant protein is inappropriate for building our physical structure, and it's indigestible. When we look at the other 50% of our dry weight, fat, we find that its biochemical composition is very similar to fats in meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. Plants have lots of fats, lots of oils, but when we analyze these oils in the laboratory, we find that they are inappropriate for building our fat. 50% of our structure, our physical structure, the dry weight of it. Because majority of fatty acids in the human body are saturated fatty acids in our physical structure, saturated or monounsaturated, where plants are full of polyunsaturated fatty acids. We need them in tiny amounts, omegas, omega-3, omega-9, omega-6, omega-7, but we need only tiny, tiny, tiny amounts of those as a supplement. So when you eat a handful of nuts, a handful of oily seeds, or a salad or an apple, all plants have these oils in them. We get enough. The bulk of fat consumption to build our physical structure has to come from animal foods, because these are the only fats that are appropriate for our human physiology. This is basic sciences, basic biochemistry, basic anatomy, basic physiology. That's where this information comes from. And so to summarize on that, it is animal foods, meat, fish, eggs, and dairy that are building, feeding foods for the human body. They build our physical structure, they maintain our physical structure, and they keep us healthy and strong. They give us the body to live in. So what are the plants for? Plants are unable to feed us. They're not feeding foods. They are not building foods. But plants are cleansers. They're powerful cleansers. They have a lot of substances in them which keep our bodies clean on the inside, which remove cancers, which remove toxins, which remove other sort of things. And also plants give us variety, give us colors, give us flavors, and so on. That is why we eat both. We eat plants and we eat animal foods. We all go in our lives, it's all very individual. We all have different genetics, different ancestry, different lifestyles. So there are periods in our life when we are building ourselves, feeding ourselves, and there are periods of life when it's better to cleanse, when we're a bit too toxic and we need to cleanse. And your body will always tell you that, because your body knows at every moment what it needs. It's your body that's in charge of your health. It is your own body that heals you, maintains the balance inside yourself, and maintains the homeostasis in your body. So all we have to do is just learn to listen to our bodies and give it what it needs at every moment of our existence. And I have a whole chapter in that book, in Vegetarianism, explained how to design your diet appropriately according to what your body is asking for, listening to your body. Because we're all very different. One size fits all doesn't work, and every one of us has to get in touch with the body intelligence in order to feed it appropriately.
Wow, that was a lot to process, but valuable information. Thank you so much, Doctor. Tell me, there is a special gift that you have for our listeners. Can you perhaps tell us more about that?
Well, I've done a lot of lectures, and on my blog called dr-natasha.com, there are 3 videos of lectures where I talk about gaps, where I talk about heart disease, where it comes from, about the role of cholesterol and role of fats in the human diet and human health, and about vegetarianism. So please go on that blog and watch those videos. You will learn a lot.
Awesome. Doctor, I'd like to thank you so much for your knowledge and your wisdom. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Wow, helping so many people. It's amazing. And, you know, thank you so much for your research as well, and educating and empowering us to know our bodies better.
That's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Listeners, I want to thank you for paying attention to what's being said here, so you understand how important proteins and fat is, and the role that vegetarianism has to play in the body. Take heart and listen to the lectures that is attached to this video, and enjoy. I will see you later.